All right.
The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is James Olsen, and James is a management-trained philosopher whose studies have included business, engineering, art, Eastern and Western religion, yoga, Qigong, psychology, language, neurolinguistic programming, philosophy, and brain perspective. We're going to be talking about The Whole Brain Path to Peace this hour, which is James's first book. It's the result of almost 20 years of research. His ultimate goal in writing this book was to promote the holistic perspective. As a practicing philosopher, he has worked most of his life to unify his understanding of material things, ideas and spiritual energies by eliminating conflicting ideas and embracing those that are in harmony with one another. Joining me now is James Olsen. And James, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I've never heard of a management-trained philosopher. What is that?
Well, I have a degree in management. I studied business administration, and so that's how I was formally trained. But soon after I graduated and was working on my own, I realized that not only were other people being dishonest with themselves, I was sometimes being dishonest with myself. And I thought of all the people that I could be dishonest with, the worst thing to do would be to be dishonest with myself. And I realized that being honest meant we faced up to the conflicts. We realized the conflicts that existed within our own belief system, and that the way to resolve those conflicts was to face them and find solutions. And that's basically what philosophers do. Okay. They try to unify information. And so I started focusing on that, and the most important thing we can understand is to understand ourselves, and you have to be honest to really understand yourself. And so I really set off as my number one goal was to be honest with myself and to eliminate any conflict within my belief system.
You know,
and so that's what philosophers do. They seek unity, and that's what I do.
You know, when you think of philosophers, you think of Plato sitting on a rock somewhere in ancient Greece. You don't think of philosophers having a place in today's society.
Well, they're not given much respect, but we're more important than ever, and we're all philosophers in a sense. We all seek to understand the truth and to reconcile our beliefs to a certain extent, but sometimes certain ideas become inconvenient, and they can even be expensive if we face the truth. So we sometimes take the easy way out and just stay with our comfortable beliefs. And I decided that wasn't my choice.
All right, you and I have to take our first commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. X-Zone Nation, James Olsen is our special guest this hour. His website is www.thewholebrainpath.com. That's www.thewholebrainpath.com. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from the studios of the X-Zone Radio and TV show in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break. Don't go away.
Well, let me rest a while near your fiery smile. Well, I remember it all very well. Looking back, it was the summer I turned 18. We lived in a one-room run-down shack on the outskirts of New Orleans. We didn't have money for food or rent, to say the least. We were hard-pressed. Then Mama spent every last penny we had to buy me a dancing dress. Well, Mama washed and combed and curled my hair, and then she painted my eyes and lips. Then I stepped into a satin dancing dress that had a split from the side clean up to my hip. It was red velvet trimming and it fit me good. And standing back from the looking glass there stood a woman where a half-grown kid had stood. She said, here's your one chance, fancy, don't let me down. She said, here's your one chance, fancy, don't let me down.
X-Zone James Olsen is our special guest. And James, what inspired you to write The Whole Brain Path to Peace?
Many years ago, I went to a weekend workshop in which a neuroscientist mapped our brains in a 4-quadrant model by asking a series of questions. And I learned more about myself during that event than I think I'd ever learned in a single weekend. And this really inspired me to study the effect of brain dominance on our behavior. I've often heard said that the most important thing we can understand is ourselves, and this really helped me to understand myself.
Now, you describe the two hemispheres as specialists, explaining that they see different things and have unique ways of processing what they see. What are some of the differences between the left brain and the right brain in terms of what they see, what you call perspective, and how they react to life, what you refer to as process and response?
The right brain is the holistic brain. It sees the whole of things. It sees the big picture. The right brain is our focused brain, and it focuses in on individual details of the big picture. That's kind of, in the simplest terms, that's what they see. The big picture and the details, respectively. The right brain processes things by bringing them together. It's the unifying brain, and by unifying things, it eventually gets to the whole of things. The left brain is our analytical brain, and it focuses, and it is separate. And in doing that, it is separative. It separates the whole into specific parts of the whole that it wants to see. So So one is unifying, the right brain is unifying, and the left brain is separative. It breaks the whole down into parts. The left brain is aggressive, and it needs to be in order to protect us, and that is its job. The left brain I think of as our earth brain. It takes care of us, and the right brain is our universe brain. It connects us with the universe, it connects us with other people, and so the right brain is the collective brain. It sees the collective and responds to the collective and cares about the collective. That's why right brain people tend to, like most women, tend to reach out to help other people more than left brain people who are focused on themselves more. As a left brain, I mean, I'm a left brain person, so I'm naturally kind of selfish, and I have to understand that and try to bring in my right brain and join the universe community, so to speak.
Well, then tell me this. If the two hemispheres are so radically different, James, how do they manage to work so well together?
Well, although they seem to be radically different, at least when seen from a left brain perspective, when we view them in the more holistic context, we see that they are actually complementary. They are a team. Each hemisphere looks at a different aspect of reality, which is their specialty, and then they integrate their special visions to form a whole. And when they don't work together, they lose power, they lose accuracy, and they tend to give us incomplete, often misleading information. When they fail to work together, they can give us mixed signals and mentally confuse us. If we just look at one or the other, we can easily lose our way because we really need both the big picture and we need to focus in on certain aspects of the big picture depending upon what we need to know, where we want to go, and so forth. And the left brain, because it's very competitive and selfish, it tends to be in conflict with others. But they are a complementary team. So once we understand that and understand what's going on, we can figure out how to integrate them.
All right, let me ask you this. How can understanding the brain help men and women better understand one another?
Well, men tend to see the world from a dualistic left brain perspective. The left brain is dominant in most men, and so it directs the attention because we tend to use one brain or the other to as the lead brain or the brain that directs our thinking. And although we all use both brains, since we tend to use one brain more, we tend to become comfortable with that. And women tend to use the right brain, so they tend to be more holistic. And the difference between the way the two brain hemispheres view and respond is so extreme that the situation is very similar to the communications problems faced when two people speak different languages. So if men, for example, are unfamiliar with the right brain perspective that is common to women, and we fail to understand its purpose, it becomes difficult to understand women whose behavior is guided by their right brain. And that's why men have such a difficult time understanding women. The women are really seeing reality primarily from a different perspective, and because they have a different perspective, they tend to develop different perceptions of reality. And when you fail to understand one hemisphere, that naturally tends to generate fear, and that makes us defensive and creates conflict.
All right. You associate the left brain with war and the right brain with peace. Why is that?
Well, the left brain is analytical, and what analysis does is take things apart.
Mm-hmm.
So we call it deconstructive. That's the way it goes about exploring it's the world. We take things apart to see how they tick. To do this, it needs to be aggressive and forceful, because wholes don't naturally just fall apart. You know, they're integrated, and they tend to want to remain whole, and so you have to force them apart, and that's deconstructive. Now, that's not always destructive, because some things can be reassembled, like we can take an automobile engine apart and put it back together. But you can't take a frog apart or a cat apart and then reassemble them. And the same thing with human. And so the left brain tends to be destructive. And the right brain, because it assembles things and because it seeks harmony, is the brain of peace. And so we have these two opposites, or these two complementary perspectives. And what we really need to do is find some way to integrate these two and find our place on the continuum, because no one wants to be at war all the time. And unfortunately, we can't always be at peace, because there's always someone trying to get their way, trying to take things from us. So we have to find a way to integrate the two, and that is possible. But the left brain is naturally the brain of war, and that's why men tend to be more aggressive. That's why there are many more men in prison than there are women, because men have this destructive tendency due to being dominated by the left brain.
James Olsen is our guest for this hour. We're talking about his book entitled The Whole Brain Path to Peace. And we've got about a minute and a half left, James, so in this first segment, this first half hour, I should say. And I'd like you to help me cue up the next section by telling me what the difference is between perception and perspective.
Well, perspective is what we see from our position. We have one perspective if we're looking up, and we have another if we look down. We have one if we're in Iraq. We have another one if we're in Chicago, and that's a factor of position, where we're positioned, what we can see from where we're standing. Perception is the conclusions we draw from what we see, and you and I can have the same perspective, but draw radically different conclusions. Because we develop a different perception. Perception is based on, is a function of our education, a function of our experience, and these things can vary widely, and so perception is a very complex thing, whereas perspective is relatively simple. It's just what we see from where we are, and when we can change our perspective easily or not. We can also choose to not want to choose.
All right, James, stand by. We've got to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. This is the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'll be back on the other side of this news break. Don't go away.
Food or rent, to say the least, we were hard-pressed. Then Mama spent every last penny we had to buy me a dancing dress. Well, Mama washed and combed and curled my hair, and then she painted my eyes and lips. Then I stepped into a satin dancing dress.
Hi, this is Eric Rawls of Cosmoverse.com, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Hi, this is Blade Runner, and you are listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, I'm Laura Sabrin of Feast to Fields Organic Vineyard in Jordan, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Hi, my name is Lady Ashley, the White Witch of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal talk radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Midnight at the Oasis, send your camel to bed. Shadows painting our faces, traces of romance in our heads. Heaven's holding a half moon, shining just for us. Let's slip off to a sand dune real soon. Kick up a little dust. Come on, cactus is our friend. He'll point out the way. Come on, till the evening ends. You don't have to answer.
James Olsen is my guest, Exonation. He's the author of The Whole Brain Path to Peace. His website is www.wholebrainpath.com. You said in the first half of the show that philosophers weren't respected. Why did you say that?
Well, for one thing, the philosophy section in bookstores has just gotten progressively smaller and smaller over the years to where it's almost gone, and it's probably not in some bookstores. And I think people don't understand philosophers, understand what philosophers do, because they serve a very important role in trying to integrate science and spirituality. And in religion, particularly in much of religion, science is seen as the enemy. And unfortunately, it seems that even in science, sometimes religion is seen as the enemy, and which is probably a fairly rational thing, since religion often seems to be at war, choose to be at war with science. So anyway, I'm not sure why other than that, but I think mostly it's just not understood what it is. We think of philosophy as something that's very difficult. Philosophy books are very difficult to read, and they from my own experience of reading philosophy. Philosophers often go into fine details because they want to be accurate. So we've heard the devil's in the details, and philosophers tend to go into details sometimes and get lost in the details. So I think philosophy is not all that interesting in many respects. So that may be another reason it contributes to the disrespect that philosophers get.
So if philosophy isn't getting respect from people, why do people want to become philosophers?
Well, I don't know that many people do.
Is it a dying occupation? Has the time for philosophy met its doom, met its demise?
Well, our world seems to go in waves. We're sort of in a pendulum, back and forth. And these things constantly shift. We go to extremes. And I know now we're shifting from a left brain centered culture. It's slowly shifting to a right brain centered culture. The divine feminine is coming back into its power, and maybe philosophers will come back into their power.
Do you think that's going to happen, being a philosopher yourself?
Well, I'm not very good at predicting the future. I just see the broad trends, and I know that things go back and forth, and so I guess that's a hope.
Where are we going wrong when we, who are not philosophers, Try to understand the word peace and what it takes to be peaceful.
That's I think that we don't understand that we have two radically different perspectives, and we don't understand that we really have a choice between perspectives. We perhaps believe we have a single perspective, and we just go with that. It's automatic. It's what we've inherited, and we don't know that we have a choice when we actually have a choice. And I believe that peace begins in the brain, because war begins in the brain. It begins in the left brain, and it begins in our individual brains. And when we don't see that the two sides are complementary, we tend to see them as competitors, and we tend to believe that one or the other is correct. And so that tends to polarize us. We tend to either go with the conservative left brain view or the liberal right brain view, and we forget that both views are extraordinarily important. They both have something important to say, and we need to respect both, and we need to find a way to integrate. If we're liberal, we need to respect the conservative view and find the truth in that. And it's not always true, because conservatives are often wrong, just as liberals are often wrong. And so we have to find the truth in that and bring them together and find peace within our own brain. And that's where peace starts. Collective peace is just a reflection of individual peace.
So am I to take it that you believe, or it's perceived, I should say, that the majority of journalists are liberals? And do you agree? And if so, why do you think it's the truth?
Well, definitely, the media is somewhat more liberal, but that's a natural response, because regardless of one's values or the values of their employers, as a person comes up through the various news organizations, they are exposed to a wide variety of people, their perspectives and their perceptions, and this has the inevitable effect of broadening and deepening their personal perspectives and perceptions, and that makes the journalists more complete and more holistic, relatively speaking, from where they were, whatever political convictions they might have started with.
Is that good or is that bad?
Well, that's good, because, I mean, it's good in the sense that as we experience more perspectives, that broadens our perceptions and helps us to understand people and things better. And so, I know conservatives might be a bit uncomfortable with that, because but the world is becoming more liberal. You see this in the very broad trends. Now, sometimes it will shift back and forth. A culture will become more conservative, but then they shift back to liberal, then they shift back to conservative, and then back to liberal, and that's just the way the trends work. And so eventually we become more liberal, which is to say more holistic in our views. And again, we need the conservatives there to look at the details to get everything right. So we need both perspectives, but it's good that we expand our perspectives and our perceptions.
I was just reading something here, and You suggest that the fundamental cause of homosexuality is the brain. Now, this is no doubt an exceptionally controversial statement that you've come out with, and I'd like to know what your basis of it is.
Well, I discovered this once I started to describe the individual produced when hemispheric dominance is reversed. Mm-hmm. Now, as I've said before, most men are left brain dominant.
Yes.
And most women are right brain dominant. But not all men are left brain dominant, and not all women are right brain dominant. So in writing this book, I had to figure out, well, what happens when the dominance is reversed? Mm-hmm. Well, what happens is that the male, a male who has a right brain perspective, a holistic perspective, has the same perspective that a female has. Now, of course, there are big variations. You know, there's a continuum of right brain and left brain. Some men are extremely left brain dominant, and some women are extremely right brain dominant. But sometimes they're moderate, and they can even be kind of in the middle. So there's a huge continuum here that makes it much more complex to talk about. But if you just look at the extremes, if a male has a feminine perspective, that male is going to develop a feminine perception. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't matter whether the right brain is in a female or male, it has the same perspective, it has the same processes, it leads us to the same conclusions. So if you have a female, well, let's call it a female brain, if the right brain is directing the male, he's going to respond in much the same way that a woman responds. And you can see this in body language. There's something called gaydar, where people are able to see mm-hmm. that a male is homosexual, and that's really just body language. That's as far as I can tell, that's all gaydar is. It's just recognizing body language. And if the right brain is directing a male, his body language is going to be similar to that of a female because of the way the brain responds. Now, there are cultural factors that figure into this. I know women are often taught to do certain things in a certain way, mm-hmm. and men aren't. So that complicates things. And then another factor is that the right brain is looking for its complement in all things, and the right brain geometry is one of circles. In sacred geometry, circles are known as feminine, whereas straight lines are male lines, and curved lines are female lines. So the holistic brain is looking for straight lines, and it's looking for tends to be, and males tend to be have straight lines. The sexual organ is straight. Their bodies tend to be more straight than women, and the reverse is true. So women, if a female is dominated by the male left brain, she tends to dress more like males, tends to perceive things more like males. I know a lot of I have several lesbian friends, and mm-hmm. most of them are really big into athletics. In fact, they're more into athletics than I am. So anyway, that's if you have you put a male brain in a female body, the female tends to to respond the way males do, and males are looking for a female. So if you have a female body but a male brain, you're going to be looking for a female. Females are going to attract you. Whereas if you are a male and you have a female body, just like other females, you're going to be attracted to males. And I think that there's a biological component to this.
Mm-hmm.
That we know that homosexual men tend to respond in many ways similar to heterosexual women, and this evidently is caused by the absence of testosterone at certain periods in our life. And I think that probably, and I'm just guessing here, but I think that probably affects the brain dominance and sets this up so that this is the response when people have when the dominance is reversed.
All right, stand by. We've got to take a commercial break. This is our final break for this segment. X-Zone Nation, our guest this hour is James Olsen. www.thewholebrainpath.com. Don't forget, this coming February 2012, I'll be the Master of Ceremonies at the Body, Soul, Spirit Expo being held in Toronto, Ontario at the International Centre, 6900 Airport Road. For more information on the Body, Soul, Spirit Expo, or if you'd like to become an exhibitor, they still have a few booths available. Chandler was telling me the other day. To contact Chandler Armstrong and to find out more about being an exhibitor, visit their website at www.bodysoulspiritexpo.com. That's www.bodysoulspiritexpo.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
Send your camel to bed. Shadows painting our faces. Traces. She's so very nice. You should break the ice. Let her know that she's on your mind. What you trying to hide when you know inside she's the best thing you'll ever find. Oh, can't you see it? Don't you think she's feeling the same? Oh, I guarantee it. She's the one who's calling your name. You should hear how she talks about you. You should hear what she said. She said she would be lost without you. She's half out of her head. You should hear how she talks about you. She just can't get enough. She said she would be lost without you. She's really in love. She's in love with you, boy. I ain't telling tales. Anybody else could repeat the things that I've heard. She can talk sweet.
X-Zone Nation, James Olsen is our special guest. www.thewholebrainpath.com. And James, how does the war on drugs tie in with what we know about the brain hemispheres?
Well, I've said that left brain men tend to be aggressive and they tend to be destructive, and left brain men are in charge of the war on, largely in charge of the war on drugs, just or the drug issues, just as they're in charge of everything else. And their response to a problem is separation. Separate people from their drugs, separate them from the general population by putting them in prisons. Separation is the way the left brain deals with problems. And in the and it's also very selfish. I think I've said that. It's one that takes care of us. In the mid-1930s, a number of powerful, wealthy individuals had large timber holdings and stood to lose billions of dollars and perhaps go bankrupt. And at the same time, the plastics industry was getting started, and it was also threatened by the prospect of cheap hemp. And at this same time, the mechanical hemp processing equipment became affordable, and it was ready such that the the nation could have started producing large quantities of hemp, but this, of course, threatened the timber holdings because hemp could be used to produce our Sunday papers, just as it used to be in the early days. Some of our currency was printed on hemp, and so these guys were, they were wealthy and they had immense power, and they managed to go to Congress and get the rules changed. Mm-hmm. They demonized people who used marijuana, which is marijuana. Hemp is just the fibers of the marijuana plant, or you might say the drug that people use, or the blossoms of the hemp plant, however you want to say that. So it's the same plant, and that greatly threatened them. And the way to keep people from growing hemp.
Gary, I'm sorry, not Gary. Okay. James, 10 seconds. Give me a wrap up.
Okay, so it was going to threaten their livelihood, and they just had to stop hemp any way they could, and they did that by
we've got to say so long for now. Thanks very much for joining us, James. James Olsen has been our guest this hour, thewholebrainpath.com. My name's Rob McConnell. I'll be back on the other side as we further investigate September 11, 2001 with 911 intercepted. I'll be back. Don't go away.